Hey everybody, it's Aluna Michaels, Esoteric Astrologer, Quantum Astrologer here, to talk to you about the events of May 2017. And okay, let's start with the big news today. I'm doing this on May 3rd, that Mercury just went retrograde. Yay, just a few hours ago. Of course, not such a big deal when Mercury goes retrograde. It's 3 times a year, roughly, for about 3 weeks at a time. And it's not usually that much to worry about. I try to help you guys with that Mercury retrograde. A lot of people have just this, Mercury retrograde, everything's going to screw up. It's not necessarily true. What was a little tricky about this Mercury retrograde is it started out in Taurus, which is pretty, that's okay, going retrograde, calm. Taurus is pretty even-keeled. But it went backwards into Aries, and Aries likes to go forward, So it's like, why are you going backwards? And people can feel more irritable with that Mercury going back into Aries like that, going backwards like that. Then at the end of April, it got very close, Mercury got very close to the planet Uranus, also in Aries. And that can just cause extra chaos, extra cuckoo-ness, extra irritation, and remembering that you're looking within and examining yourself during a Mercury retrograde, but a lot of people just feel irritated and frustrated. So you're encountering other people's stuff, So it's kind of even more of that until now. Mercury goes direct here on May 3rd. And then what's going to happen on May 10th is Mercury now is going forward, is going to connect exactly with Uranus again. But it's a forward pass, so hopefully it's more insights and awarenesses. It still could be a little bumpy, again, because just Mercury-Uranus together is like, I want what I want now. And it can be this manifestation time, but could also be people being irritated if they're that way generally, so just kind of watch there and watching how you express yourself, because some people could take it as more pushy than you're coming across or something, and they're more sensitive to that like vibe or whatever, So that's happening on the 10th of May. And then, for those of you who are interested in this, Mercury will then catch up with itself. So, because it retrograded in April, it was 4 degrees of Taurus. So when does it hit 4 degrees of Taurus again? The 20th of May. That means it's covering brand new territory, and that tends to be even another opening of awarenesses or being able to put into practice the things that you've discovered during Mercury retrograde, stuff like that. What also happens that's interesting is, remember back in March, Venus went retrograde, then it went direct in April. Well, Venus will catch up with itself too, and that's going to be like the 19th. So the 19th, 20th of May, we've got Mercury and Venus starting to govern new territory. Because Venus also was retrograding, started out in Aries, and then went back into Pisces and back into Aries. There's things like, if you feel like, I can have my needs met, people can feel more positive in relationships. So instead of sort of fighting how things are, it's like we're cooperating together and moving forward and finding ways that things are win-win, So that can be very helpful. Also with money, because Venus is about money, you can, have a new job or have a new attitude towards your money, and have even just like positive thinking around finances, spiritual thinking and stuff like that can really make you feel perked up and inspired in that realm too. Also, new relationships are always fun, or just starting a new relationship can be great under those transits. Okay, so that is that part of things. Okay, let me just talk here now too about Venus. So we have Mercury and Uranus together on the 10th of May, and then Mercury goes on its merry way because it moves a lot faster than Uranus. Then Venus is in Aries now, also coming up to Uranus, and that's going to be from, so Venus and Uranus will make a conjunction. It's going to be around the 31st of the month through like June 3rd, so we'll probably talk about that again next month, but just a little short time of maybe a little hot-tempered stuff. I mean, Venus and Aries with Uranus can be very sexy and very fun, but it could also be, again, if somebody's more temperamental, they could see you as being pushy, or you want your way and not their way. It's like, wait, we're trying to cooperate, but they're not seeing it that way. So having a little gentleness in the relationship, if somebody is more feisty, but it still can be a great time, again, starting new relationships, but being careful about leaping in too fast, because sometimes it's just something crazy and it's like, oh, that didn't pan out, but it would be pretty quick to find out it wouldn't pan out with Venus and Uranus that way. when they conjunct, it's sort of like clear because they're in Aries, like, this is great, oh, no, it's not. But also, if you're someone who's afraid of making moves, if you're someone who's shy and you're going to ask somebody out, or you want to make a big move in your life, because Venus can be also about what you desire. So if you're someone who tends to hang back, those kind of transits are great because it's like, I'm doing it. This is the day I do it. And then there's like a opening that happens and you start to feel everything flowing out of that courage that you had, So that is a great thing for you depending on how your chart works. And just a little caution is a good thing unless you're someone who's overly cautious, then you want to take that leap of faith. Okay, the other thing to talk about is Mars. Mars has moved into Gemini as of late April. And Mars in Gemini is wonderful. Mars is great wherever it's going pretty much, but it's, about being straightforward because, and this kind of sounds like a similar theme with the Mercury and Venus, because Mercury and Venus are in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So there's a lot of energy in May about, like going for it and speaking up for yourself. But again, finding that balance between assertiveness and pushy, or how is it like, again, that win-win, like I'm excited about this and you are too, and we're both going along. It isn't like because I'm winning, you're losing. So being aware of emphasizing that with people when Mars is in Gemini, But just these little hotspot times is that Mars is going to make a square to Neptune. That's on the 10th and 11th. And what's interesting about that is it's the same day that Mercury conjuncts Uranus, where again, some people can be a bit hot-tempered with that. So Mars is strongly expressing yourself, and with Gemini being communication, we've got that, and then Neptune can be some confusion. So you'd have to watch out for people giving mixed signals, and then because the Mercury Uranus is there, I'm pushing a little harder on that, and it's like, it might be like if somebody starts seeming funny, like they probably misunderstood you, and maybe back off and say, oh, what threw you off, or do you understand, what was your understanding of what I said? Like, oh, you said blah, blah. No, I didn't at all. Oh, okay. So you could subvert an argument, or just even have an understanding of, oh, that's what that theme is in that relationship. They get triggered when I do that because they think this, and it could actually, if you take the time to examine it, it really clears up a pattern. So that can be a good thing. But you don't want to just kind of keep going into it and reading your own signals and putting it on them and that kind of stuff. And just, again, watching when someone makes a shift in how they're dealing with you. Oh, they're probably putting a story on what I'm saying and they're misunderstanding. But quickly after that, and pretty much the same day, we also have Mars trining Jupiter. Trines are an easier flow of energy, and Jupiter is that sort of big-heartedness and tolerance and stuff. So, if you can have that little humility to be the one that backs down a little or says, oh, what's going on, then that good-heartedness of that Jupiter can come in rather than the confusion of the Mars-Neptune. At the end of the month, around the 28th, which brings us into Memorial Day weekend, here in the US at least, Mars is going to oppose Saturn. That's always a little bit tricky, because Mars is like, go, and Saturn's like, no, they're opposing. It's like, you got to check and make sure you got everything. But I got everything, I want to go. And so that can be a tension, tense things going on in relationships. Making sure, especially if you do vacations around that time or barbecues and stuff, that, again, everyone's voice is being heard. So somebody doesn't play Saturn. They sort of slow everything down. They're late, or they forget stuff, or they, rain on the parade of the party, someone bringing everybody down or something. It's like, okay, what does that person need? What's going on here? And how can we make sure everybody is included or feels included? Can be part of Mars Saturn, that Saturn, the person who's playing Saturn in that, who could seem critical or depressed or whatever, it's usually they're feeling isolated from a group or isolated from an activity, and how do you incorporate little pieces that make that person feel included? Sometimes on another angle, sometimes when Mars is opposing Saturn, you might feel like you're just tired, I don't want to do it, and just making yourself, sorry, the computer went dark there for a second, just making yourself do it getting over that hump of the Saturn, you get into that Mars, like, oh, it's fun. I'm actually having a good time, So looking at your hesitation and maybe just giving yourself a little encouragement. Generally, people when Mars is opposing Saturn, it's good to get some extra rest or extra vitamins or, things like that, because people just feel a little more tired. But just being a little more gentle with yourself while still having fun and not going all the way Saturn, like nothing's happening, or Mars, everything's happening, I'm tired. So it's, again, our oppositions are about striking that balance and making sure both planets are included in that picture, Okay, so the other thing that's intriguing, and I don't talk about this too much, is, and part of me just being too simplistic about this maybe, but there's something called the North Node in astrology and the South Node. Technically, all planets have nodes, and this is spelled N as in Nancy, O, D as in dog, E, S as in Sam, so the nodes. But we generally talk about the nodes, we're saying the nodes of the moon. And it's not a planet, it's sort of part of a mathematical thing that has to do with how planets are revolving in the solar system, so just take it as that. But the North Node, we usually focus on the North Node for some reason, but the North Node is changing from Virgo to Leo, because the nodes go backwards. Don't ask why, they just do. There's a reason why, but I don't get into it. And so nodes change signs, about a year and a half or so is how that works. So we've had, generally the idea of the North Node is what you're striving for. The South Node is where you've been and kind of are growing from that. Not that the South Node's bad, but it's a comfort zone that you then spring from into the next piece. So the South Node had been in Pisces and the North Node in Virgo. And then sometimes it goes the other way, where the North Node is Pisces and the South Node's Virgo. But for now, it's like moving that way. And then we're going into South Node Aquarius, North Node Leo. And that's going to happen on the 10th of May, too. What this has to do with, in a lot of ways, the theme of the Pisces South Node, Virgo North Node, there's, and especially, I also talk about when planets change signs, you're wrapping up a story about that theme. So it gets a little tired, it's like, all right, we've been doing that for a year and a half, this idea of themes of feeling ashamed or self-criticism, martyrdom in relationships, victim stuff. This is how it's wrapping up with these Virgo Pisces thing. It starts out different, but I won't bother with where it was, but that it gets a little old with that. You can start to see patterns of imbalances in relationships like that, or how you play the victim, or you criticize because you feel helpless somehow, and criticizing makes you feel more powerful, or even how you do that within yourself, picking on yourself. Like you have your spiritual practice, which is Pisces, and you're picking on it because you're not perfectly whatever in your spiritual stuff, and pick with the Virgo. So we're moving out of that and into the Leo North Node and the Aquarius South Node. And know that Leo North Node is like embracing the heart, feeling courageous, feeling passionate, feeling that also Leo's about, in a good way, you or me, like the individual, the shining, like the sun. And on my Leo video on my website, I talk about that. Like Leo is supposed to be the sun. It's supposed to shine. Planets are supposed to go around the sun, and everyone should feel special at some way in their life, that they're, everybody is a child of God and a blessing in the universe and all of that. But how is that person special? Like, if you're like a dance team and then everyone gets a little solo, or a jazz band, and you say, here's a saxophone guy playing, isn't he great? And here's the guy who plays the drums, he's great too. So that's kind of that idea of Aquarius and Leo. Like, when do you get to shine out of the group? What's your contribution? And like, if we say like the jazz band, like get your little solo ready, and you're the one who's doing that, because you're you, and we like that, and this is your moment. And so there's this awakening to your talents, to feeling you are special, and because you're special, the group is even better. Like if that jazz drummer is that great, that band's that great, that saxophone player is great, it's great. Like all of these individuals are making a great group, So it's that, how do I tune myself into my passions, my excitement, my enthusiasm, these are all Leo terms, to bring that wonderfulness to the group of the Aquarius South Node, because it's more about celebrating the individual because it's moving toward that North Node instead of like, oh, we're just all here together in one unit, blending in, and it's cool, which is Aquarius, but it's like, let's go out of that, like not play it safe and be in the background in the band, but take your moment in the spotlight when it comes. And so that can also enhance a relationship. You're bringing this whole individual self into your partnership, into your marriage, into your friendship, into your, if it's a group of people, the office, or the family or group of friends, whatever it is. You're bringing that sense of self. And I had a client tell me about this really great book about intimacy, and I was reading, actually recommended, it was really great. And it was talking about like when people, the best intimate situations and relationships are when you bring your whole self, and it's two whole selves, not like a needy person and a weak person or two weak persons clinging or something like that. But kind of like Khalil Gibran talks about in The Prophet, the two pillars, holding up the roof. It's like that strong individual and the strong individual create this depth of intimacy. So being able to enhance relationships and even group functions, you're bringing that whole realized self of Leo, and it doesn't mean you outshine someone else or are conceited or any of this. It's like we're all strong hearts together, not that we're all individuals shouting for our needs met, but that's that blend of the Leo and Aquarius, how, again, like the jazz band, this is my time for my solo, and then I go back into the group, and now you do yours, and we're going, yeah, you're great, and, so think of that as we let go of how the Virgo Pisces node thing can get like the thing about the victim stuff or resentments in relationships or with the groups, and how can we each honor, like forgive everyone's flaws and honor their strengths, and forgive your own flaws and honor your strengths, which doesn't mean you let people walk on you and stay in abusive situations, but you know what I mean. It's the pick stuff that's like, why am I just picking on the person? Why aren't I thinking how great they are? Like when you're in a new relationship and you think this person's wonderful and you overlook the stuff that's annoying, and then you're married 10 years to them and they do this annoying stuff, and what happened to the great stuff? That's still there too, but you're not focusing on it. So this change of node can be improving relationships because you're saying, like remember when I fell in love with this person because they did all those things. They still do all those things. I just don't notice them anymore. And I'm noticing this insignificant stuff that's blocking that. So also in your own self, like when people meet you and what they like about you and saying, that's the real me too, not just the stuff I struggle with that nobody knows I'm struggling with, or only, my deep partnerships or friends or family know. I'm also this great person, and letting that blossom more so that it heals the other parts that you struggle so hard with. It can heal easier from this sort of in a healthy pride, and really a self-love, that then enhances everybody around you. So that's about the nodes. So, and you also have the nodes in your own chart, which are a different story, but kind of have that same theme about for your life, what you're working on. So if you're interested in a session with me, my website is Aluna, my email, alunamichaels.com. And my cell phone, if you want for phone or text, is 248-583-1663. Hope you have a great month of May, and I'll talk to you in June, and bye for now.